Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga. This time, the finale of the X and Y story arc. But previously, X and his friends have decided to take the battle to Team Flare, coming against Jurassic, who looks to prove himself after his Essentia project has seemingly failed. But Jurassic was captured by X in the process. But Jurassic manages to get one over on X, but it's only through the evolution of Quilladin into Chestnut and Charmeleon into Charizard that X regains the upper hand. Teaming up with Blue, they both use the power of Mega Evolution. As it turns out, X's Charizard had a Mega Evolution Stone on its tail this entire time. And with Blue also being a successor to Mega Evolution, they Mega Evolve their Pokemon into Mega Charizard X and Y. Meanwhile, the Team Flare scientists go after the rest of X's friends. After X and Blue take down Jurassic, they go to help their friends out, only for Yveltal at the command of Malva to go on the attack. But Xerneas, under the command of Y, holds Yveltal at bay. At their friend's behest, X and Blue head off to the Pokemon village, while they deal with the Team Flare scientists. All while the Team Flare grunts tie Pokemon to the ancient absorber in order to power the ultimate weapon. They arrive at the village only to be attacked by Mewtwo, who some time ago became the protector of this village. But thanks to Team Flare, Mewtwo is lashing out at anyone and everyone that comes near, including Blue and X. Mewtwo even Mega Evolves into Mega Mewtwo Y, breaking free of its haze at the behest of Blaine, who has arrived on the scene as well. Lysander, now outnumbered and outmatched, summons Zygarde to its side, using Essentia as a puppet to command Zygarde. Lysander commands Essentia to tell Zygarde to use Land's Wrath, injuring everyone else, while Diantha and Malva once again engage in combat, with Malva stealing Diantha's Keystone. Trevor, finally feeling more confident and even having his Flabébé evolve into a Floette, tells Y to help out the others, as her ability of Mega Evolution is more useful there. Mewtwo shifts transformations into Mega Mewtwo X, thanks to his bond with Blaine, taking on Zygarde. But when X goes after Essentia to try to take her out and stop Zygarde, he's shocked to find out that under the mask is Emma, who had allowed herself to be controlled in order to no longer feel afraid of the world around her. Meanwhile, Y goes to the assistance of Diantha against Malva, managing to get Diantha's Keystone away from Malva's grasp. But Diantha wishes to face Malva alone. Blue finds Diantha's Keystone and seems to formulate a plan to use it. There are final showdowns happening all across the Pokemon village, as our heroes are really doing their best to take it to Team Flare. But Team Flare is crafty and at every turn seems to have another plan in store. What will we encounter in this final climactic few chapters? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, first up is adventure number 44, Zygarde. Agitated. Oh, Zygarde's getting pissy. It's missed its afternoon nap. Alright. We pick up with the battle between Diantha and Malva. Diantha commanding Gardevoir to use Charge Beam, while Malva commands her Talonflame to use Razor Wind. And we have the first of my favorite Pokemon, Talonflame. Not one of my all-time favorites, but I really did grow to appreciate this Pokemon because of both the anime and because of having it in the game. It really came in clutch quite a few times. Malva says, "You're still hoping to end this battle, Champion of Kalos? That title is meaningless now," as she has Talonflame release her and has it use aerobatics to slam into Gardevoir. But Gardevoir manages to stay aloft, keeping Diantha up in the air. Malva, now on the back of Talonflame, laughs. "You're doing splendidly, Talonflame. I can see the fire in your feathers. I know you're stoked." Malva then weirdly starts blushing and licking her lips. Weird. Me too. I hope Master Lysander notices. She is She is the very essence of an attention whore. We then cut over to Trevor and his Floette, hiding from Bryony and her Bisharp. Trevor thinks to himself, I acted confident when I was talking to Y just now, but Trevor then accidentally steps on a branch, snapping it, gaining at Bisharp's attention. Bisharp slashes through the tree that Trevor was hiding behind as Trevor manages to avoid being cut. He says in shock, it sliced through that thick tree trunk like it was butter. But as Bisharp tries to come through and get at Trevor, I'm not sure, but it kind of looks like the slices of the tree stump start to kind of move in unison, knocking both Bisharp and Bryony back. Yeah, seeing that Bryony says Matt Block, as we see that it was none other than Greninja who helped protect Trevor. Another one of my favorites. Now this one definitely one of my favorites. No contest there. Trevor says, Croaky, Y left you behind to help me, didn't she? Thank you, he says, hugging the Pokemon. He says, I feel invincible now. Those moves Croaky knows. Yeah, because I don't think Greninja can technically Mega Evolve, right? Yeah, it's just Ash Greninja. And honestly, I don't even know if that's a Mega Evolution. Yeah, that's a weird bond ability. And it's weird that it's never come up anywhere else before. Or since. So yeah, and I don't think that Y's Greninja would transform into Ash Greninja for no apparent reason. We cut over to Santa Luna City at the Santa Luna Gym, where we see Viola and Alexa. Alexa seems to be looking over something, saying, just as I thought. Viola questions, are you referring to that story about the ultimate weapon being created 3,000 years ago? Alexa says, that's right. Part of the story tells of an evil flower that deprived people in Pokemon of their life force. I'm thinking that maybe the ultimate weapon can be used over and over as long as you reload it with life forces. Viola questions, how can we stop it then? Yeah, why are you the only one not involved in this battle at this point? Then again, the rest of the gym leaders aren't, but Viola kind of completely noped out of the story for a while. Then again, might have been just to protect her sister. So thinking about it like that would make sense why she wouldn't be involved. Family first. Alexa then questions, today is the anniversary of the day that epic battle finally came to an end, isn't it? Viola says, that's right. What is it, Alexa simply says, I have a bad feeling. Yeah, no crap. Meanwhile, as the battle against Lysander continues to rage, and we also see Lysander's Gyarados, as well as Y's Absol, as well as Mewtwo. There we go. I think that's all the ones who are featured here. Already loaded up with Pokemon. All the while X and Chestnut look over the incapacitated Emma. Lysander tries to order Essentia again, saying, once more, Zygarde, Dragon Pulse. And Emma very happily just says it back. Once more, Zygarde, much to X's shock as he says, stop it, Emma. But Emma says, Dragon Pulse. And Blaine and Mewtwo are hit by Zygarde's Dragon Pulse, seemingly knocked out. Lysander then orders, we're almost done. Stand up, Essentia. And Emma does just that, saying, yes, Master. X tells her, don't do it, Emma. But Emma questions, why not? This is my job. They pay me for it. I'm doing it to help Cassius. Oh, jeez. X is still in disbelief, but then says, listen to me, Emma. You told me once that you like Cassius. Emma pauses. X tells her, because even though you weren't able to help him with his Pokemon storage system, he was never mean to you. Isn't that right? You know what? I'm scared of grown-ups myself. I'm scared of strangers. I'm even scared of people I know. I never trust that someone who's nice to me today will be nice to me tomorrow. And that's why I locked myself up in my room. I had no goal, no dream. I lost my drive to do anything. I had nothing. That's what I thought anyway. I let 5 years pass like that. And then Vanderbilt Town was attacked by Xerneas and Yveltal. I had no intention of leaving my room, let alone going outside, but I was forced to. The journey that followed was awful. Team Flare chased me all over the place. I could hardly sleep. That's when I realized that I had always had everything I needed. I had a home, I had my room, I had food, I had friends, and I had my Pokemon. There were They were all waiting for me to come back out, and they all treated me just like before. I've met so many people in Pokemon on this journey, people who have suffered because of Team Flare. They were already having a hard time, but, well, maybe it was because they were having a hard time. Anyway, people helped us, and people needed our help. He says, thinking of all the people he's met, Karina, Gherkin, Diantha, Cassius, Clement, Alexa, and Viola. X says, that's something I've learned after going back outside. But you don't need me to tell you that, because you've always had to deal with the outside world, haven't you? If there are some people in Pokemon you trust, then don't betray them and hurt their feelings now. Emma seems to take this in for a second, but Lysander commands, Zygarde, Land's Wrath. Emma begins to say it, but struggles with it, saying z. As he watches Emma struggle, X calls out to her. Someone pats him on the shoulder, saying, I think you've gone through to her. As Lysander commands, Essentia, what are you doing? Only for someone to call out, hey, Mr. Lysander. As we see Cassius and his Gorgorgius, or what is it called again? Gorgeist, there we go. Cassius says, I hear you're going to keep controlling Emma even if it destroys her. You'd better be paying her a king's ransom for that. For real. Lysander questions, what? Cassius says, well, don't tell me she works for free. Lysander pauses and then says, he then commands again, Essentia, hurry up and fire. Cassius kneels down over Emma saying, looks like he isn't paying her. What a lousy part-time job, for real. Let's go home, Emma. But Lysander commands, Essentia, no. Emma, ever since you started wearing that suit, you've become somebody of value. You've earned the right to live in the freshly maintained Kalos we're creating, the right to preside over the worthless, insignificant lives of others as Essentia of Team Flare. Emma, give Zygarde the command. Cassius then says, hey, I don't know you, but I know you don't have the right to steal and ruin other people's lives, for real. He says without even looking in Lysander's direction. But Gorgeist then uses, I think, a Shadow Ball to destroy the control device for the Essentia suit right out of Lysander's hands. Emma, now in full control, commands Zygarde, use Land's Wrath on Lysander. But before she can finish, Mega Gyarados swallows her, or at least uses Crunch on her. I'm not really sure, just bites her or something. The Pokeball falls into Lysander's hand as he says, now Zygarde is mine. Emma falls to the ground, X running towards her, shouting, Emma. Lysander then commands Zygarde, saying, Land's Wrath, and Zygarde does just that, unleashing a powerful move on X, Cassius, and Emma. Y then comes diving in with Fletchinder, commanding her Mega Absol, saying, Sol, get Lysander. And Absol then proceeds to bite down on Lysander's arm. I guess the arm he had the Pokeball in? Lysander then says, noble roar. And Pyroar comes racing in. I guess breaking free of all the rocks it was under, chomping down onto Mega Absol and tossing it away from Lysander, ripping him off of Lysander's hand. Oh, okay, I couldn't tell what was happening there at first, but Gyarados de-Mega Evolves as Lysander looks to his hand, sands the Keystone Ring, and now plus a bloody finger, saying, how dare you steal my Keystone? Y then questions, steal? Are you kidding me? You're the one who stole it from Karina. But an enraged Lysander then roars, Hydro Pump, and Gyarados does just that, knocking Y back. Suddenly, the comms come in with the Team Flare admin, Chalmers speaking, reporting to Master Lysander. Preparations for the Life Force absorption are complete. Lysander laughs. Good timing. Just as I've disposed of all the worthless trash, destiny is on my side. Chalmers, you may begin. Chalmers says, yes, sir. Lysander then says, now then, the time has come. Oh, he then begins broadcasting across all Holocaster and video monitors across the Kalos region, saying, citizens of Kalos, I am Lysander, the developer of the Holocaster. I've heard tell that the Holocaster has become incredibly popular and that many of the people of Kalos own one. As Alexa and Viola look to their holocasters, Viola questions, "What's with the speech?" Many people across Kalos all watch, as Lysander says, "To express my gratitude for your business, I have an important announcement to make today. Please listen carefully. Team Flare is about to begin the purification of Kalos. We will eradicate all the dirt and chaos and return Kalos to its pristine state. Together with the Chosen Ones, I will rebuild a magnificent region. And as for those of you who are the Unchosen, unfortunately, this is for well," he says with a devious smile, and the feed cut. The people of Kalos question, "What was that all about? Some kind of commercial for the new Holocaster, I guess," another person says. Literally the ignorant masses. But then again, why would you assume that someone who has gained so much fame and recognition and money would be out to commit genocide? Viola then cries out, "Alexa, are they going to use the ultimate weapon now? What should we do?" But suddenly someone approaches them saying, "Excuse me." Alexa says, "Hey, you're..." We cut back to X and Y. X buried and Y trying to help him out with the aid of Sylvalion. Y says, "X, hang in there." No, X says, "How are Emma and Cassius?" But we see Cassius, a little worse for wear, carrying Emma on his back with a little help from Gorgeist. Cassius says, "Don't worry, we're alive, for real." Emma then turns to see Lysander and Zygarde making their way downtown, no, away. Emma saying, "Lysander is getting away." Chestnut then brings a very injured Blue and Blaine towards X. X saying, "Blue, marry so." Oh, out of Blue's grasp falls Diantha's keystone. X says, "This is Diantha's keystone." Y says, "I've got Karina's keystone too, but having all these keystones isn't going to help us." X looks at the two keystones and thinks to himself, Mega Evolution can only be used once in a battle with one keystone. X then grabs the keystone off of Blue's hand while saying, "Hey, what are you doing, X?" And as X removes it, he says, "Sorry, Blue. I promise I'll return it to you later." As X puts on Blue's keystone, he says, "Why? Your Mega Ring and Karina's keystone. I need you to lend them to me." Uh-oh. What's he about to do? He's gonna get Mega Evolvy. Oh, Jesus. We cut to Route 10, Menhir Trail, where several Pokemon stuck to stones are having their life force drained out of them. It's really kind of messed up. Chalmers says, "This is really something." While the female admin starts to heave, saying, "I don't feel well." Chalmers questions, "Are you alright?" I guess that's a natural reaction after what we just witnessed. That Delphox certainly is impressive. It's obvious that Lady Malva trained it. Even with the other Pokemon in such a pitiful state, it looks calm and collected. Jeez, that is the most dismissive Pokemon I've ever seen. Just see, it's so odd because so many other Pokemon tend to at least be a little bit more attuned to others. But this Delphox just don't give a flying frick. A grunt then comes up saying, "Reporting from the guard post, all clear." Female admin says, "Of course it is. Among Us is guarding the ground, and Venomoth, and are guarding the waterfronts in the sky by spreading sleep powder everywhere. Any person or Pokemon who approaches the area will fall asleep. But don't let your guard down, okay?" The grunt says, "I won't." Although, suddenly, Delphox opens his eye. Why is this Delphox so ominous? Cut to Lysander, Gyarados, and Zygarde as he's heading out. I guess he gets on the comms with someone saying, "Lysander speaking. My work here is done. I'm off to Geosing now." But then Lysander looks behind him, seeing X and all of his Pokemon, including Charizard, Babayum, and Gengar. Yeah, I think that's it. X and his full team. Lysander says, "You can still fight." X now with a bevy of keystones and rings. Karina's keystone, Diantha's keystone, Blue's keystone, Y's keystone, and his own. He says, "The light of the 5 keystones and the light of the 5 megastones shall merge. Go! Mega Evolution!" And so he Mega Evolves all of his Pokemon. Mega Manectric, Mega Charizard, X, Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Pinsir, Mega Gengar. Shoot, the only Pokemon he has that can't Mega Evolve is its Chestnut. Why says it worked? Well, Lysander is shocked, saying, "What? 5 Mega Evolutions at once? How's that possible? And it technically shouldn't be, but this is the manga. We can do what we want. As all of his Mega Evolved Pokemon just start laying into Zygarde. Lysander's, though, mocks him, saying, amazing, and such a pity that I must deprive such an impressive, powerful trainer of his life force, he says with a sneer. He says, what a shame, X. He commands Zygarde to use Dragon Pulse, which hits Charizard. But Charizard seems to be fine. X thinks to himself, looking over to Y, commanding her Savalion, as he thinks, thanks Y, Vivi's Mist Terrain has halved the damage from those Dragon-type moves. While Y thinks to herself, give it all you've got, X. Ooh, nice support. X on the back of Chestnut then commands Kanga, outrage. The two Kangaskhan rush in. Delphox looks to her feet, noticing a weird energy. The female admin questions, what's wrong, Delphox? Delphox then notices movement over by the absorbers, and as Delphox gets ready to attack, the admins say, what? Intruders? Delphox goes to launch an attack, but suddenly an explosion knocks back all the admins. Some are saying, what just happened? A voice calls out, the powder that our pavilion spread has caught fire. As we see Alexa alongside Viola, who's with, what was her name again? Yvette, as well as the other trainers from the Flyer School in their pavilion flying through the air. As we also see Clement and his little sister Bonnie, including Bonnie's Dene. Is that exclusively because of the anime, or is that also because of the manga? I mean, is that also the thing in the game? It's weird how that worked out. I feel like the manga took cues from the anime on that one. Bonnie just showing up with a Dene. Okay, shoot, the cavalry's here. Right on. All right, the next chapter is adventure number 45. Xerneas gives. Watch out for what Xerneas gives you. It might be oh no, I shouldn't use that word. Something giver, but I don't think we use that word anymore now. What an interesting team up. Viola coming in with all of the guy trainers, the Horde of Pavilion. Viola shouts, let's go, Yvette. And Yvette says, okay, Viola. Hey everyone, let us Pavilionists bring the hammer of justice on Team Flare for shaming us. Pull those Pokemon away from the stone pillars. That will prevent their life force from being drained. You know, I questioned the fact that Viola hadn't been involved, and yet here she is, being involved at the most crucial of times. That's actually kind of cool. Alexa shouts, be careful, though. Don't let those pillars absorb your life force. Clement then says, Alexa, Bonnie, our electric-type specialists will carry out their plan. Alexa says, perfect. While Bonnie says, Roger. All right. Alexa also mainly has an electric-type Pokemon. I actually forgot that Clement, he has Heliolisk. Alexa should have Helioptile. There we go. Helioptile. I thought both of them were Clements, but I'm like, no, Alexa also has a electric-type Pokemon. And then Bonnie has her Dedenne. Alexa says, perfect. While Bonnie says, Roger. Clement then says, as soon as all the Pokemon have been saved, we'll destroy the stone pillars. That way, they won't be able to activate the ultimate weapon again. It's so wild that these are all like the main people who were with Ash in the anime. Like, by all standards, you didn't have to have them be so primary. But then again, Clement is the Lumio City gym leader, which is like the main city of Kalos, or the one that gets the most attention. Shoot, even in Pokemon ZA, it's going to be the main setting. So Clement being the main kind of protagonist is also kind of apropos. But you didn't have to make Alexa such a prominent character. I wonder if there's a deeper meaning behind that. I don't know. But Clement says that way, they won't ever be able to activate the ultimate weapon again. Meanwhile, Chalmers and the female admin, get up from being fried. Chalmers saying they used electric terrain to get past our sleeping trap on the ground, and they shot down our Venomoth to clear a path through the sky. Meanwhile, Delphox is doing his best to fight back the Horde of Pavilion, while Clement uses his Apom arm to help get Bonnie out of the way from Delphox unleashing a massive fiery blast. Clement says, "Are you okay, Bonnie?" Bonnie says, "I'm fine, Clement." As Clement peeks out from behind one of the rocks, he says, "Delphox threw his wand to create a fire spin above the stone pillars and used mystic fire to keep us away. It doesn't have a trainer commanding it, but that Delphox is tough." Seriously, this Delphox is driven. Viola then says to the Pavilion and Sky Traders, "Come on, everyone, overlap your wings. Hold hands." And I guess the Pavilion used holding hands. Oh, cool. Creating a massive circle of Pavilion and then raining down spores? Or wind? It's hard to say. Yvette says, "This will protect us in the sky and the people on the ground. We don't have to fear those flames." Female admin says they spun around and used centrifugal force to disperse Safeguard. Oh, they're dispersing Safeguard. Ah, gotcha. Yvette then tells the Pavilion, "Now spread out," and the Pavilion make their way through the flames, picking up the Pokemon off of the absorbers. Meanwhile, Bonnie and her Dedenne sneak next to one of the rocks, and Dedenne just destroys it. Bonnie cheers, "I did it, Clement. One down." Chalmers tells Team Flare Grunt, "Where's our backup?" The Grunt says, "They went to deal with the Elite Four first, and I just lost contact with the team of guards at Chalor and Silage." Chalmers then says, "Wait, I just hailed the guards. Hand it over." And he roughly grabs the friggin' communicator out of the Grunt's ear, saying, "Chalmers speaking, we're under attack. Deploy to Route 10 immediately." The voice that says, "Hello? We're not exactly Anyway, we're heading your way." Chalmers says, "No, I don't know. Explain yourself." Nice. We see many of the other gym leaders, namely Wolfric, what was his name again? Ramos, Valerie, Olympia, and Grant, all having downed several Team Flare grunts and helping several people out. Wolfric says, "Well, what I meant was, we're not your guard team. We're the gym leader team. But we'll be there in a minute, whether you like it or not." That's the most G thing ever. Chalmers falls to his knees as the female admin says, "What's wrong, Chalmers?" As Chalmers saying, "This might be the end of Team Flare." Just kind of accepting it. Honestly, this has probably been the most successful a group has really been against an enemy team in terms of this. It does help that all of the scientific team is, occupied. Speaking of which, and another of my faves, Houndoom, under the command of Mabel, uses Inferno, seemingly frying one of Tierno's legs. Oh, no, kinda. It melts his roller skate. As Tierno says, "My roller skates." Mabel says, "Now you aren't mobile anymore. You should have given up when your Pokemon was defeated." As we see Houndoom keeping Corphish down. Tierno says, "My Pokemon isn't down yet. Once it latches onto something, it never lets go. Not until the battle is over." As we see Corphish still gripping onto Houndoom's arm. As Houndoom tries to get out of Corphish's grasp, Mabel says, "Stubborn, huh?" Tierno, holding his leg, says, "You can say that again. Don't forget, 5 long years for our friend to come out of his room. We waited 5 long years for our friend to come out of his room." As Corphish suddenly evolves into, what is this Pokemon's name again? Crawdont, now overpowering Houndoom. Mabel says, "It evolved?" As she too is grabbed by Crawdont, and Tierno commands Crawdont to use Guillotine as it slams both Mabel and Houndoom into some trees. My god dang. Just I like to think it did it repeatedly. Meanwhile, the battle between Shauna and Celosia, I was about to call her Aliana, but it's Celosia, is underway, where Doublade is kind of got the edge over on her Skitty, though Celosia also has Phone Edge at her side too. Aegislash. So I don't know how Shauna gets out of this one unless her Skitty evolves. And though it seems like Skitty is pretty much holding its own against Doublade. Even Celosia says, "Impressive. Your Pokemon isn't blocking or dodging my Doublade's attacks. Instead, it's warding off the attacks. It's as if it's stuck to Doublade." Shauna calls out from behind a tree, I trained hard too, you know, and Gurki said I was good too, you know. But Solosia says, well done, but is this battle really as it seems? How do you know you aren't being fooled by an illusion again? Shauna, cowering, says, that's not an illusion, but Solosia laughs. Exactly. How can you be sure? Shauna starts to stammer, losing confidence, and that reflects back on Skitty, who loses its focus and is struck by Doublade. Solosia says, you might have been training hard, but you're still the gullible weakling you always were. Shauna, still behind the tree, says, actually, I thought you wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Solosia is shocked by this, as Shauna commands, Neko, feint attack, and the seemingly down Skitty suddenly manages to get up, rushing in and instantly slamming into the blade, downing it right then and there. Solosia picks up her Pokemon, saying, what the? The blade is covered with Skitty's fur. His attacks weren't powerful because the blade was blunt. You weren't just warding off the attacks, you were using play rough. Shauna says, like you said, I'm weak. That's why I got help from someone who should have been here and would have liked to join this battle. As suddenly, Karina's Lucario joins the fight. Swear to God, this is probably one of the most amount of Pokemon I've had for this. Gotta shrink them real small now. Not the most, but one of the most. There we go. Room for at least one more. And we're not even halfway done yet. And Karina's Lucario arrives on the scene. Shauna, sticking out her tongue, says, Lucario protected me with its aura so that I wouldn't fall for your illusions again. Smart. I just pretended to be surprised. And then she commands Lucario to use Foresight and Aura Sphere, knocking into Aegislash. No, knocking into Solosia, knocking her back into Aegislash, breaking her visor. Lucario then has, and Skitty have to then help Shauna as she kind of feels a little faint. And she says, I did it, Karina. Gurki, well, good on you, kid. Good stuff. Enter Tierno, who's being helped by Crawdont over because, you know, burned leg. One of the few times a burned actually harms someone. He calls out for Shauna, and Shauna says, Tierney, I'm so glad you're alright. What happened to your foot? Tierno says, I'm not totally okay, but I'm okay. Shauna then says, where's Trevor? Cut over to the battle between Trevor and Byrony, as they're sealed within the slabs of wood held together by Frubbles. But Byrony's Bisharp manages to cut it all down. Byrony then spots Trevor off in the woods. She commands Bisharp, saying, over there! And Bisharp cuts off Trevor's head. But it was obviously a decoy made out of Frubbles, only for something to fly past Byrony. Hitting Bisharp is, Greninja, there we go. I don't know why I was blanking on the name. There's too many things going on. Greninja's Water Shuriken hit Bisharp, but also hit Byrony as well. Byrony says he covered Water Shuriken with Fairy Wind so that it would have an effect on Steel type as well. And Byrony passes out, as we see Trevor up in a tree being helped by Greninja down to the ground. He says, phew, thanks, Croaky, only for a voice to say, isn't it a bit too soon to celebrate? Haven't you forgotten someone? As we see Aliana behind him with his Pumpkaboo? With her Pumpkaboo. Yeah, Pumpkaboo. He laughs. Don't move or else his head will leave his body for real this time, she says to Greninja. But suddenly, something wraps around her neck. Tierno saying, same goes for you. One move and snip. Aliana being held back by Tierno's Crawdont, and she says, this is hopeless. Yeah, she would be the one. She's not really as ruthless as a lot of her compatriots. Oh, they actually managed to do it. With a little help here and there. But we cut over to the battle against Zygarde, as Lysander is really being given the business by X's Mega Evolved Pokemon. Lysander commands, attack X! Go Pyroar! Gyarados! And as they do just that, Y calls out, be careful, X. Although X, he is breathing heavy. Oh, yep, it's a massive strain on his mind. It's affecting his body. All those Mega Evolutions all at once. Yep, there was bound to be some repercussions. Y calls out, X, X, can you hear me? But enter in Blue and Mewtwo X. I guess X didn't take Blaine's Mega Keystone. Huh, okay. But Blaine's Charizard hits Gyarados, while Mewtwo X hits Pyroar. Y calls out Blue, while Blue says, X, you focus on Zygarde. But X is He ain't looking so good. Cassie says something seems to be amiss with him. Blaine explains the phenomenon of mega evolution occurs through the bond between a Pokemon and its trainer, and he's handling 5 Pokemon at once. So it doesn't really matter what Blues tells him, because he can only concentrate on this battle against Zygarde. In X's mind, the only words running through it are Zygarde, defeat, defeat, defeat. Y then says, hey Cassius, do you see something weird coming out of Zygarde? Cassius says, yeah. Emma says, it looks like those strange blobs that got absorbed into Zygarde's body when I fought it in Anastar City. Y says, oh, that's right. Those little green wobbly things. Yeah, those little green squishy things, if you know what I'm referring to. Emma says, it looked like Zygarde was absorbing them. So in other words, that Pokemon may seem huge, but it's actually just a bunch of those little slimy jellies sticking together. Y says, does that mean X's attacks are having an effect? That Zygarde is starting to break apart? Blaine says, either that or it no longer feels a need to use its power. We then pick up with Trevor and the others making their way, I guess, over to where X is. But he says, whoa, stop, as they've come upon the battle between Xerneas and Yveltal, as Trevor aptly calls out. Shauna says, what's going on? They're not moving. Shauna says, look, Xerneas' horns have turned completely blue. And Yveltal's eyes have turned completely white. Huh, that's weird. Xerneas then calls out children of Vanderbilt Town. Oh, it even gets to X and Y. Y says, Zerzer? Xerneas says, I knew this would happen from the moment I faced Zygarde. Zygarde is the guardian of the ecosystem. The more Yveltal and I use our powers, the more strength Zygarde gathers to protect the ecosystem. But Zygarde's power has been co-opted and used for a purpose it doesn't approve of. So you must eliminate Zygarde's power entirely. Trevor says that means Xerneas continues saying, farewell, children of Vanderbilt Town. You have all been given seeds. Oh, Xerneas and Yveltal then form back into the cocoon and the tree, just on each other now, which is even more creepy than before. Trevor comes up saying, it stopped moving. I can't hear its voice anymore. Shauna says, has Zerzer gone to sleep? Trina says, is Yveltal asleep too? But suddenly, the ground around the tree begins to give in, and Trina has to pull Trevor back from falling in, as the tree sinks into the ground and vanishes like it was never there to begin with. Gee, freaky. Trevor then says, we have to hurry to the Pokemon Village. We need to tell X and Y about this. Zygarde's power is being nullified. Oh, they merge into the ground to stop Zygarde. Okay. Zygarde's eyes light up, and more of the blobs burst forth, much to Lysander's disbelief. Emma says it's starting to disperse. Ly says, Zerzer. As Lysander says, what's happening? Meanwhile, X is still just utterly focused, telling Pinsir to use superpower, Gengar to use Dark Pulse, Manectric to use Thunder, Kangaskhan to use Outrage, Charizard to use Flare Blitz, and they all unleash their power upon Zygarde, which causes Lysander to be knocked up into the air. Meanwhile, with the battle between Malva and Diantha, Malva continues to dodge Diantha's Gardevoir's attacks as she says, you're too slow? Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog. But Malva's attention is caught as she sees what's happening to Zygarde. She questions, Master Lysander? Master Lysander! But because she's distracted, not able to evade Gardevoir's next attack that slams into Talonflame, causing Malva to plummet towards the ground. Diantha, seeing this, reaches out for Malva, calling out to her, but Malva smacks away Diantha's hand. Much to Diantha's shock, Malva, with a bitter look in her eyes, continues on, reaching out for Lysander. Ooh, both of them hitting the jagged rocks below. Y is the only one to really turn away in shock. Cassius and Emma have a melancholic look on their face. Diantha has a look of just, almost a bitter look like I could have done something. Why didn't you let me? Jesus. And as all of X's Pokemon Mega evolve, you can hear a weakened and bloody Lysander saying, Malva, the ultimate weapon, where is the light of purification? Oi, oi. As X looks down upon a bloodied Malva and Lysander in a heap on the ground. Jesus. We cut to later as Tierno, Shauna, and Trevor arrive on the scene, calling out to X and Y. X huddled up as Y tends to him. Blaine seems to be tending to Lysander, while Diantha looks over Malva. Oh, you can barely see them, but you do see the other Elite Four off to the side. Ooh. As Blaine examines Lysander, he says he's alive, but judging from how seriously injured his spinal cord is, he'll probably never be able to. But Malva laughs. How ironic. Master Lysander fell from the very world he dreamt of. And me too. Blaine comes over to her saying, your injury's not that serious. For better or worse, since Lysander's body cushioned you from the fall. It doesn't make it any better. No, Malva says that doesn't make it any better. Master Lysander won't be around to protect me anymore. Protect? Diantha says, questions, is that why you wanted to die too? Or do you have feelings for Lysander? Malva says, this man has given me nothing but humiliation. Don't be stupid. I was planning to steal everything from him as soon as this world was purified. Malva then looks up at Diantha, who is shocked as Malva has this genuine look on her face. And she says, Diantha, I would rather die than be pitied by you. That's all. Jeez. I'd love to know why she's like this. That's just sad. There's nothing else to really say. Like, why? Oh my god, and you can see the shards of glass stuck in her eyes and stuff. Can she even see right now? And we see the ultimate weapon is inactive. The gym leaders, as well as Alexa and Yvette, being cheered on by the Pokemon of the Pokemon Village for saving them. Shauna's Furfrou comes across the Delphox. Meanwhile, Diantha and the other Elite Four members pick up the body of Malva, I guess trying to decide what to do with her. See, I could see Malva not, being arrested, but also still serving as a member of the Elite Four, just because in terms of this series, it's very common to have Elite Four members who did bad things in the past but still serve as members of the Elite Four. Shoot, gym leaders too. So I think they'll force her to stay as a member of the Elite Four, but more so they can make sure to keep an eye on her. Because with everything that's gone on, there's probably also an element of pity, like, what made you this way? And is there a way to undo it? Because everything in that final moment, that just, there's such an element of maliciousness to it, but I don't know, I felt that she said she doesn't want to be pitied, but I kind of pitied her in that moment, because, God, what's to say about that kind of mindset? Like, why though? What did Diantha do to you, lady? Or maybe it's just more interesting not knowing, because even Diantha doesn't know. That's crazy. And part of me does believe that she probably would have, backstabbed Lysander somewhere down the way. But dang, it would have been when all was said and done, probably, so that she could be on top. But she would have done it in a way that she would come out looking like roses. Dang. And so we see Cassius and the gang giving X and his friends a ride back to, I guess, Lumios. As Trevor narrates, we left Pokemon Village and are head to Lumia City, where Professor Sycamore awaits us. We're so relieved. Everything is finally back to normal. We're proud because we protected the Kalos region from Team Flare's evil doing. Quite a surprise. It's not even the last chapter. Weird. And as they arrive in Lumia City, they see the people just going about their lives, completely and utterly, like nothing ever happened. Everyone seems to be in shock. As Shauna questions what's up with them. The ultimate weapon almost drained them too. They could have ended up like those Pokemon on Route 19. So why are they acting all happy as if nothing happened? Tierno says, Shauna, we saved everyone so that they could live their everyday lives in peace. Only for a couple to say, who are those grubby street urchins? I bet they're in that Lumios gang. I wish the city would do something about them. So you just see a random bunch of kids and immediately assume that they're kids living on the street. And dang. Wow. Oh, okay. Way to make it so that I kind of, I mean, that speaks to human nature, but dang. Oof. X says, if the town that got destroyed by Zerg during Yveltal's battle hadn't been Vanderbilt Town, if we hadn't been the ones Team Flare was after, we'd probably be happy-go-lucky like them and the so-called chosen people who support Team Flare and Lysander. You remember Sloshi's words. We already control all the companies and media who agree with our boss. The people who assume they are the chosen ones have easily come over to our side. X explains, now that Team Flare is gone, all their followers are acting like they had nothing to do with them. Chana says, that's not right. Y says, it isn't. It means that in some way, Team Flare isn't truly gone. Geez, yeah. Because Team Flare, it's kind of worse than with Team Plasma. Because with Team Plasma, it was made up of people who thought they were doing good, and some of them gave in to the lust for power along the way. That righteous cause and all that. But for a lot of people who are a part of Team Flare, they just never cared. And they had the anonymity. They were undercover agents hiding all over. And now that it's gone, they can just still hide in the shadows. Team Flare may be done, but the ideology, the mindset, nothing has changed for that. God, that's shockingly morbid for this series. Oh man, Pokemon, I need you to calm it down a little bit, man. That is such a depressing mindset, but a realistic one. Trevor's narration says, X and Y's words hit us hard. We thought to ourselves, maybe we'll never fit in with these oblivious people, only for the kids to be approached by AZ saying, I have a question for you. How will you make a life for yourselves in this new Kalos? Tell me what a Pokemon trainer's destiny is. Did the game have a moment like that? I can't imagine that it would. Dang, that's kind of messed up. All right, I guess we're kind of officially in the last few chapters, which is so weird. I mean, the battle was climactic, honestly. Everything that happened with Lysander was pretty damn climactic. But it feels like it wasn't the main event of everything. It was the kids' understanding of the world around them. That's the big to-do about all of this. But here we are, adventure number 46. Floette return. As the kids are a little taken aback to see AZ towering over them, he says, tell me, how will you make a life for yourself in Kalos from this day forward? Trevor seems to be excited, saying, that's a good question, AZ. Chino looks a little bit disturbed, saying, how will we make a life for ourselves? While Shauna shouts, I don't know anymore. X looks away, saying, Emma asked me if the townspeople would be kind to her after we defeated Team Flare, and Y seems to tremble, saying, and when they set eyes on us just now, all they said was, he remembers the words, who are those grubby street urchins? I wish the city would do something about them. Y says, you know what? I know it's wrong to think this way, but for a moment, a thought just crossed my mind. Why did we fight so hard to protect these people? Are they really worth saving? Trina says, me too. Shauna says, me three. AZ pauses and pulls out the key, saying, you know what this is, right? Trevor says, the key to the ultimate weapon. AZ tells them, while you were battling, I returned to Geosang Town to retrieve it. I created the ultimate weapon, but even I can't destroy it. This key will at least prevent anyone from activating it again. I don't want to see history, the tragedy of 3,000 years ago, repeat itself. X then questions, then, how come you've kept that key for 3,000 years? I says, yeah, didn't you realize that people like Team Flare could steal it from you and use it for evil? Tara says, isn't there any way to destroy that key? AZ says, no. Besides, perhaps a time will come when this key will be of use. A time when I will again be tormented by despair. That thought is what prevented me from disposing of or destroying the key. X and Y are shocked. You also see the people around, aghast at the giant that is AZ, as he says, In 3,000 years, nothing has changed. People still lack imagination. They're still intolerant. They make no effort to understand others. They can't relate to people who are different from them, so they cast them out instead of finding common ground. Just as I thought, everything must end. He begins to walk off. Trevor saying, AZ, you're not going to... Trina says, that's crazy talk. Trevor follows saying, wait, only for a Golurk? Yeah, Golurk to pop out. It goes to punch Trevor, but X brings out his chestnut, who uses its defense to block. As Golurk goes on a bit of a rampage, striking out at the people, Tierno jumps in, saving the couple who, were saying that they're dirty street urchins and needed to be brought out of the city. Golurk then fires a blast, but Shauna's Skitty manages to protect her. As AZ proceeds out of the city, Y uses her Fletchinder to fly next to him, saying, stop it, AZ. AZ says, why? Didn't you just say these people aren't worthy of our protection? Wouldn't it be best for Kalos if they were all wiped out? Y says, but that's exactly how Team Flare and Lightsender think. And Y stops dead in her tracks, realizing this, not noticing that Golurk is about to attack. X says, Y, look out, Mariso, pin missile. And Chestnut does just that, but AZ jumps in the way of his Golurk being attacked, taking the hit. The kids gather around calling out for AZ, and AZ says, come back, Golurk. He tells the kids, you have shown me your answer. As he breaks something. Okay. As he shows them the pieces of something. Trevor looks him over saying, you did all that on purpose to destroy the key? Y says, that's not the only reason. He did it because he didn't want us to let our disappointment lead us down the wrong path. AZ says, thank you. And now I can finally... But petals form around him. He picks one up saying, this is... And he looks to the sky as he says Floette descend from on high towards him. The only other immortal in this world, made immortal for the exact same reason as him, with the eternal flower, Floette. In shock, AZ holds out his hand, welcoming Floette. He bows, sobbing. Later we see Trevor shaking hands with AZ. Trevor's narration saying, Lysander spent all his money trying to help poor people in hopes of making Kalos a better place, but it was never enough. He must have gotten worn out in the end and given in to the same hopelessness we felt from the people of Lumio City. And then he grew bitter. Maybe that's why he went to such extremes, trying to decide who was worthy and who wasn't. If we let ourselves get as judgmental as him, we might have... Anyway, that's the lesson AZ taught us. A voice goes out, huh? There you are. It's Sycamore, along with the gym leaders, Yvette, Alexa, and Bonnie, as well as Furfur. Sycamore says, we've been waiting for you. And all of a sudden we heard yelling and we thought some leftover grunts from Team Flare were attacking. Shauna is shocked as she sees her Furfur saying, Furry! Furry! Her Furfur leaps up, licking her. Shauna turns to Tina saying, hey, this is real, right? This is really my furry. Tina says, don't worry, this Furfur is no illusion. Clement uses his A-palm arm, saying, I thought that was Shauna's Furfur, and this Pokemon's for you. Trevor takes the Pokeball saying, a Delphox? Clement says, we fought Delphox on Route 10. It was incredibly strong. We fought it together and managed to defeat it, but Shauna's Furfur wouldn't leave its side. It's as if Furry was worried about it. So I thought maybe this Pokemon belonged to you. Clement, with a worried look in his face, says, thank you very much. It's probably one of the Pokemon that was originally meant to join our group. Let's be friends, okay? I don't know. See, I'm interested to see how this Delphox turns out, because, man, maybe... Part of me wonders if it would be better to go back to Malva. Maybe not. Sycamore says, all right, hurry up and help now and come to my laboratory. We're having a party to celebrate. Trevor says, a party? Sycamore says, not just a party. We'll have a victory parade all through Lumio City in honor of all of you saving Kalos. It's going to be incredible. There'll be live coverage of the parade in Kalos and in other regions too. The kids all nod to each other, and Trevor tells them, Professor, we'd like to decline the party and parade. Sycamore says, whatever for? And X, already walking off as the others follow, says, well, we have a ton of things to take care of before we can celebrate. You grown-ups have fun. And as everyone heads off, X, now back on the Rhyhorn tent, Trevor narrates, and so we're headed back to our hometown. Through routes and towns we haven't visited for months. Places where we met people, places where we fought, places where we lost battles. And finally, what is this, Shallow Town? We see at the gates of Shallow Town, Grace, waiting. She looks at her daughter. Her daughter looks at her. They hug. Trevor says, we're home. Everyone watches the loving embrace of mother and daughter. Trevor continues to narrate, saying, since then, 3 months have passed. Dad has become a certified fur-free groomer. Works at a Pokémon salon in Lumio City. Shauna shows off a fur-free, saying, sorry to keep you waiting. How do you like the kabuki trim you ordered? The woman says, it looks really nice. For a newbie, you're very talented. Shauna bows, saying, you're too kind. As the woman walks off, she looks down an alley, saying, I hear that noise coming from the back alley? The woman that Shauna works with says, I've heard that lately musicians and dancers have been gathering there to perform. Isn't that right, Shauna? Shauna says, it sure is. The woman says, it used to be a bit sketchy back there. Trevor's narration says Tierno has formed his own dance troupe. He's street dancing in the back alleys of Lumio City. In the beginning, Tierno was the only one, but gradually the number of onlookers and dancers has increased. Now tourists and performers from other towns are seeking him out. Looks like he got some of the kids from the Lumios gang to join him. Trevor's narration continues, saying, as for myself, I moved to the North Boulevard district of Lumio City, near Jean Plaza. I'm working as Professor Sycamore's assistant now, as a replacement for Dexio and Cena. What? A replacement? Where did they go? Alola. Right. Sycamore says, a green shadow, you say? As we flash back to him talking with Blaine and Blue. Blue says, I noticed one peeking at us from behind the rubble after X and his friends left Pokemon Village. Diantha and I were preparing to take in Lysander and the Team Flare scientists. The shadow ran off and disappeared the moment we glimpsed it. Sycamore says, I've been calling the green slime that dispersed Zygarde cell. What you saw was probably a Zygarde cell, too. Blue says, I can't say for certain that it was or wasn't. Sycamore says, looks like we'll need to do more research. Blaine says, at the Pokemon Village, but Sycamore says, no, actually. I received reports of sightings of mysterious green shadows in a different region. Cena, Dexio, I'd like you to go and investigate. Dexio says, yes, sir. Blue questions, a different region? Sycamore says, yes, on the tropical island of Alola. Yes, baby, it's all coming together. We then see Trevor meeting up with Tierno and Shauna, as his narration says, and so we've returned to our everyday lives. We work hard to avoid getting overwhelmed by hopelessness. As for X and Y, we cut to Y and her flight suit on some kind of line, I guess to dry. She looks up to the sky saying, what a beautiful day, a great day to fly. I just washed my Sky Trainer suit. It's still drying, so I can't. She then hears something and calls out, hey there, next door neighbor, what you up to? As she sees X with his Kangaskhan and some planks of wood. X, with a weirdly large smile, says, the house has been rebuilt. I can go back inside now. So I'm taking apart the bed I built on top of Rai. Oh, Y says, you've been sleeping there ever since we came home. X, pets Rhyhorn, saying, you've been a great help, Rai. Thanks. Yeah, you better thank that Rhyhorn. Like, that Rhyhorn has been literally carrying the plot on its back this entire story. Y says, thanks. X blushes, looking away, saying, what? Y says, nothing. By the way, are you on your way somewhere? X says, to Shallow City. Okay, he's about to ride on Charizard. He has been pestering me about having a proper succession ceremony. I says, are all upperclassmen and experts so pushy? Yvette's been chasing me around telling me you have potential. You should become a Pavillionist. Oh, really? Why don't you drop by Lumio City to see Trevor and the others while you're in the area? X says, yeah, I'll do that. Y says, I'd join you, but the third term of school starts tomorrow. Say hello for me, okay? X pauses, then says, Y, thanks, with a very bright smile. Although Y calls from the window, I can't hear you. Hey, speak up, say it again. X says, you heard me the first time. Aw, these guys are cute. Cut to Karina telling X, hey, what's the meaning of this? X says, what do you mean? Karina says, I'm saying, why are you the only one here to you, Pajama Boy? Look, your fellow Mega Evolutionist brothers and sisters, and the people who help you in order to master the Mega Evolution are all meant to participate in the Mega Evolution succession ceremony. to watch you make a pledge that you will put the power of the Mega Evolution to good use. As we see Blaine, Blue, Diantha, Gherkin, and the Mega Evolution brothers all in attendance. And Karina says, you've got to beat Team Flare all by... You've got the I beat Team Flare all by myself look on your face. But you wouldn't have been able to do it without Y.E. Trevs, Tierney, and Shawnee, right? Oh god, she's doing it too. X says to Blue, do I have that look on my face? Blue says, kind of. Karina follows X as he marches along, and she says, come on, go get them right away. Over at the flight school, Y says, that's out of the blue. Shauna with her frou-frou says, if Karina wants us there, I guess I'll have to be there. Tierno, taking a break with some water, wipes his face with a towel, saying, sure, I'll be there. And Trevor over with Sycamore says, Professor, may I go? Sycamore says, I wish I could be there too. Could you send me a video recording? Trevor says, of course. And so it begins. Gherkin saying, must be sincere. You must be true to your word. You must be full of spirit. As the Mega Evolution succession takes place. Viola taking pictures. Alexa reporting on it. Blaine, Diantha, Blue in attendance. Everyone matters. As X and his little baby Kangaskhan in Mega Evolution form bow before Gherkin, taking the oath. You also have the presence of Alakazam and Scizor. Gotta rearrange all this again. There you go. I don't think much more will be added, but just in case, I'm ready. Would have been cool to see this in color, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be in color. Oh, okay. No little detail. And that honestly would have been a great place to kind of cap things off, but there's another chapter. Chapter 47, or Adventure 47, the final chapter of this volume, this video, and this story arc. Magerna moves. Yeah, Magerna. I'm actually surprised that we're actually getting anything on that one. I figured it would be like Zoroark, just got shoved off in a cameo. Okay, Sycamore says, wake up, Trevor. Trevor says, it's too early. What are you talking about? Professor Sycamore's away today, so the laboratory is going to be empty, right? Oh, Trevor says it's too early, and someone else, I guess his mom? He races out saying, that's right, catch you later. His narration says, this incident occurred quite a while after X's Mega Evolution succession ceremony. Something comes rolling towards Trevor, and he has to hop back in order not to step on it. He goes reaching for it, saying, what is this? But it rolls away. Looks like a Pokeball. He looks towards it, rolling off in the distance, saying, what was that? As he arrives at the lab, he says, oh, Peche, Illy, sorry to be late. Or Peche, Illy, sorry to be late. They say, we just arrived too. Let's continue what we were doing yesterday. And we see a Mega Evolved Abomasnow, a Mega Evolved Mawile, and a Mega Evolved Tyranitar. Trevor's narration says, Tina was away at a dance festival, and Shauna had a grooming contest in another town. I was the only one left in Lumio City. I was working on my Mega Evolution research with Guru Gherkin's 3 disciples. I didn't actually expect these guys to be relevant. Right. Gotta remind myself. Ile is the one with the ponytail, or is the one with the bowl cut, or with the glasses, and Peche is the one with the headband. Okay, gotta try to remember that. Trevor's narration says, a few days passed, and as we see him gathering data on Mega Houndoom fighting Mega Bayonet, he says, let's call it a day. Ray says, want to get a bite to eat? Peche says, it's a bit far, but do you want to try Cafe Ultimo? Ray says, the galette there is superb. While Trevor says, we always go to Shutterbug Cafe, so a new place will be interesting. And we see Trevor just kind of hanging out with the Mega Evolution brothers. Only for Cassius to arrive saying, hey, if it isn't Trez. Trevor says, oh, Cassius, what are you doing here? Cassius says, I just went to file a complaint to the police, for real. Trevor questions, what happened? Cassius says, Emma got taken in for suspicions of damage to property. So I went down to prove she had an alibi. Trevor says, but why? Cassius says, it happened right around the corner. It's easier if I just show you. And so, Trevor and the Mega Evolution brothers all head over. Cassius tells the receptionist at the Lumious Museum, hey, I need to go inside again. Trevor says, are we allowed? The receptionist says, it's to prove Emma's innocence, so go ahead and do all the investigating you need. She waves at Trevor saying, hey, long time no see. Trevor says, huh? Oh, you're one of the people who were helping Cassius manage the storage system. Yeah, it's the one with the mohawk. Aw, I liked her better with the mohawk. But that really does show that time has passed because the shaved parts of her hair has fully grown in. She says, I got myself a job. Oh, Jesus. What the heck happened here? Trevor says, whoa, this is terrible. But why are they saying Emma did this? Cassie says, here's an image recorded on the surveillance camera. Trevor says, this is Essentia, the expansion suit? This is impossible. We saw the expansion suit at the Pokemon Village, and Cassie says, yeah, it was destroyed there, and the police took it with them. That's why I told them to search inside their evidence locker. But they're claiming there must be multiple suits. Trevor says, what? Shouldn't they ask Jurassic about it? Cassius explains. Team Slayer is gone, but the rich and powerful guys who supported them are still pretending like they don't know anything. They must be stopping the police from questioning Jurassic, because things could get inconvenient for them. Jeez, that's realistic. Trevor pauses, then questions something, saying, oh, this is... Cassie says, what is it? He points to the same object in the picture he saw a little while ago, saying, see the round thing here? I saw the same thing a few days ago in Drawn Plaza. Cassius looks it over, saying, what? I assumed it was one of the museum exhibits. The former girl with the mohawk says, we don't have any exhibits like this here. Peche says, Trevor. Trevor says, yes? Peche points to something, saying, this is a Pokemon's... probably marks left by a fairy-type move. Or it says, this one was caused by a steel-type move. Trevor says, then this is the doing of a Pokemon? I know. And he brings out a Pokedex. Cassie says, that's a Pokedex. Trevor says, why lent it to me so I could use it for my research? I mean, at least someone's putting it to use. Like, God. Trevor accesses the deck, saying if that sphere was a Pokemon, the Pokedex may have recorded it. Found it. Magerna, an artificial Pokemon created by a scientist 500 years ago. It is a mythical Pokemon, and this is the only one that exists. Its type is Steel and Fairy. Then Magerna must have done this. That doesn't explain... Oh, Cassie says then Magerna must have done this. Trevor says that doesn't explain who's in the expansion suit and what they were doing here. Eli says maybe they tried to stop Magerna. The former girl with the mohawk says I have no idea. Ori says we still don't know why Magerna tore this place apart. Cassius plops down on the couch, saying the criminal will always come back to the scene of the crime. I don't know if that's true or not, but why don't we stake this museum out? And so we cut to that night. We pick up in the guard room where the former girl with the mohawk says, please don't tell anyone about this. Cassius says, I'm sorry we had to come in such a large group. The girl says, good luck, Cassius, as she leaves the guard with everyone else. Unfortunately, as time passes, Peche falls asleep, then Ore, then Ele, only leaving Cassius and Trevor awake. But Trevor spots Magerna, saying it's here. Cassie says, let's go, while the brothers say, time to Mega Evolve. As Magerna is making his way through the museum, it comes upon Gourgeist, and then it's flanked by Mega Houndoom, Mega Mawile, and Mega Scizor. Magerna transforms out of its ball form, looking cute as a button, honestly. The brothers call out, Mega Houndoom, Inferno, Mega Mawile, Ironhead, Mega Scissor, Bullet Punch, but Magerna manages to knock all of them away with several attacks, and then hones in on Gourgeist, who looks a little shocked, but then it goes running off. Trevor says it stopped attacking, but Cassius has Gourgeist attack it while its back is turned, saying, you're not going anywhere, trick or treat. I've added Ghost type to Magerna, so my attacks will be super effective. The Mega Evolution brothers command their Pokemon to use Bite, and Night Slash. Oh, Mega Houndoom to use Bite, Mega Mawile to use Bite, and Mega Scizor to use Night Slash. Oh, it evolved again. As Trevor brings out his Florges, he commands it to hide Magerna with Flower Shield. Cassie says, hey. While Peche says, Trevor, why? Trevor says, hear me out. Only for him to be pulled away and down the stairs by Magerna. Cassie saying, what? What in the world is going on? For real? But Cassie seems to notice something, saying, huh? Oh, he sees the guard from before taking a picture off the wall. Cassius goes over and touches him on the shoulder, saying, hey, Watchman, what are you doing? Only for the guard to turn, revealing themselves to be the person in the Essentia suit. Cassius says, You're, as the person runs out of the museum. Meanwhile, with Trevor and Magerna, Trevor says, why? Is it because I protected you? Magerna doesn't seem to know how to respond. As Trevor says, sorry, if only I could understand what you're trying to tell me. I know. I was recording the battle on my holocaster, so maybe that will tell me something. As he shows the image on a wall, he says, here, you held back from attacking Gorgeist, didn't you? Why was that? Magerna points to something behind Gorgeist. Trevor says, the painting? You stopped because you thought your attack would harm the painting? Is it a portrait of someone? Only for an attack to be set off right behind them, knocking them away. It's Essentia and Barbaracell, which is always such a weird-looking Pokemon. Trevor says, Barbaracell and the expansion suit. Essentia then commands Barbaracell to use Cross Chop on Magerna, but Magerna gets ready to attack, only for Barbaracell to hold up the painting, though Magerna does not. Weird. The fake Essentia then commands Barbaracell to use Mud Slap, which he uses to blind Magerna. Trevor says, what a dirty trick. We have to get the painting back before it's damaged. As Trevor brings out his Florges. For some reason, I didn't think that's what it was called. He has it use Petal Blizzard against Barbaracell. And as Barbaracell is blinded, Florges uses his vines in order to snag the painting out of Barbaracell's grasp. Magerna then uses Floor Cannon, blasting back Essentia and Barbaracell. The heck? Is it on autopilot? Trevor comes over saying, who's inside the expansion suit? But as he sees, he says, what? It's empty. Cut to Zerasik saying, oh, that's the Type 0 suit. It's the one I developed in the very beginning with an AI installed into it. I programmed it to search for Xerneas and Yveltal, but I created Essentia after that, so I didn't need it anymore. And I left it behind in one of our hideouts. It must have gotten activated for some reason. Why it activated, I have no idea. Maybe the self-taught AI itself, the AI self-taught itself and updated its target to capturing every legendary Pokemon. That would be incredible. Get my lawyer. If people find out about this, I'll have a sponsor who will bail me out in no time. Oh, God. No, keep him in jail, for the love of God. Later on at the Lumiose Museum, we see Cassius, the lady who used to have a mohawk, and Emma, as Emma calls out Trevs, as they all head into the museum. The lady says the curator at the museum thinks the painting was a portrait of the scientist who created Magerna. The painting was prepared for our special exhibit. Magerna must have come to see its creator after 500 years, but the expansion suit tried to capture it. Cassie says it brings tears to my eyes, for real. The lady then says the museum has given permission for Magerna to stay here, as long as it wants to. Emma looks around saying, hey, is that curator a Pokemon? Hey, is this curator a Pokemon? Where can I see it? The lady says, I guess it sounds like a Pokemon name. Oh, saying the name curator is a Pokemon name. Trevor says, well then, I should get back to the research lab. Cassius says, you must be busy. Trevor says, a trainer from another region learned about Delphox and is visiting me, and I'm currently holding an interview with the trainer. Cassius says, how's it looking so far? You can see Esper riding on Magerna in the background. Oh, the Delphox. Trevor says, that Delphox didn't get used to any of... Cassie says, that Delphox didn't get used to any of you five and wouldn't take any orders from you guys, right? It may have been liberated from Malva, but it was raised as a tyrant, so it's understandable, but for real. Trevor says, that's it. Cassie says, what's it? Trevor says, liberation. This trainer is a specialist in that. Cassius questions, what kind of trainer is that? Is this guy like a super threatening trainer who can intimidate even a Pokemon? Trevor says, no, it's the opposite of that. It's the kind of trainer that everyone in every Pokemon would want to support. See ya. Cassius says, now I'm even more worried, for real. And as Trevor heads off, he arrives at Sycamore Pokemon Labs, and someone says, oh, Trevor. As we see Whitley with Delphox, saying Delphox has agreed to go with me. I feel that it was a tough conversation, I take it. I feel as though Whitley used everything she probably learned from hanging out with Blake. Just the endless persistence of going after what you want. You know what? This. You know what? Maybe that's even why Whitley took to Delphox. That tyrannical nature. Oh my god. Now that I understand this is the perfect matchup. Oh man, I want to see what becomes of these two in the future. You then cut to a call between X and Trevor on the Holocaster. X says, I see. Delphox went to Unova. Trevor says, uh-huh. How's Schiller City, X? X says they should be able to get going on the construction next month. Karina's always hyped up. The rebuilding of the Tower of Mastery is finally becoming a reality. Oh, good. I'm glad they're rebuilding that. Oh, wow. A lot of time must have passed because Y's hair has grown out again. Nice. Thank God. I like her with longer hair. X says, but I still don't understand why she called me and Y over, nor why she's asking us to stick around. Trevor says maybe she's lonely because her master and the other disciples are gone. Oh, okay. Y then interrupts saying, oh, are you talking to Trevor? X says, you want to talk to him too, Y? And Y comes bursting into the picture, knocking into X, saying, yoo-hoo, Trevor. Trevor questions, have Guru Gherkin and Professor Sycamore already left? I guess it's Y saying that. Have Guru Gherkin and Professor Sycamore already left for Hoenn? Why are they headed to Hoenn? Oh, I know. Trevor says, yeah, the roots of Mega Evolution lie in Hoenn, so they're going down there for their research. Wait, the roots of Mega Evolution lie in Hoenn? What? I would have thought, not the Kalos region? Y says, Hoenn, huh? That was before you moved here, wasn't it? X says, what are you talking about? Y says, I must have remembered it because I read the article Alexa gave me. I was thinking that quite a lot of grown-ups, like Team Flare and their supporters, went overboard because of what happened during those few days. What? Versus narration says, I vaguely recalled it too. It was scary when the town and my family were all acting strange. During those few days, Kalos, no, the entire planet was engulfed in despair. And that despair spread from the Hoenn region. What? Okay, so this, whatever is about to be talked about, took place when they were younger. So 6 years ago. Okay, yeah, okay, that would have been the time frame. Okay. What happened to Ruby and Sapphire? What did you guys do? Oh no. Okay. Snap, I completely forgot about this, but we finally get the last levels of X and Y's Pokemon. So Kangaskhan level 50. Okay. See, it feels weird because we weren't regularly tracking what levels they were at. So Kangaskhan level 50, Manectric 49, Chestnut 42. It's weird not to have the starter be the higher level one, but then again, it's not as weird to have the one X has had the longest be such a high level. Chestnut 42, Gengar 49, Pinsir 48, and Charizard 40. It's interesting that the youngest and least experienced ones are the lowest level. But that's a great consistency. Oh, Rhyhorn was 42? She barely ever used the Rhyhorn. But then it was her mother's Rhyhorn, right? Dang, why train the heck out of her Pokemon? All except for Fletchinder. Fletchinder's only 34, god dang. Yeah, Sylveon is 48. And so is Greninja. How is it that X, then again, X was the most capable out of his group. So of course his Kangaskhan would be at 50. But with all the experience Fletchinder should have gotten to only be 34, that's wild to me. Because she used Sylveon the least. Half the time I forgot she had one. Rhyhorn feels like okay, but she barely ever used that. Greninja makes sense because she used Greninja a lot. But for Absol to be at 52, that's so wild. And Xerneas at 57. Although it's weird that it would still be technically counted amongst her Pokemon because she doesn't have Xerneas anymore. Xerneas and Yveltal have gone into a long hibernation, it seems. But this story was really fun. A lot of twists and turns, and I especially just love the introspection of it all. Lysander was fun just as an opposition, but Malva's personality was the more interesting element. That was the thing. Because Lysander and X didn't kind of have, they didn't really have a repertoire between each other. There wasn't like there's any moment where it felt like X just personally hated the guy, despite everything that took place, mostly because X could kind of be passive sometimes. Honestly, it was when they confronted each other in the Team Flare base, that's when they felt more like they were just ready to really go at it. But it wasn't a bad confrontation, all in all. Honestly, the more interesting element was Tierno, Shauna, and Trevor taking on the Team Flare Scientist squad. That was a little bit more interesting, just seeing them overcome all that. Especially Shauna, because I love the idea of Lucario coming in, helping Shauna out in order to take down Celosia, just to kind of get back, because that was a good way of going about that and really added an extra layer. Tino's fight was fun. His Pokemon deserved to evolve. Trevor's fight was also fun, but it makes sense that he had the Greninja at his back, especially just to show off that Greninja always comes in clutch no matter what. The involvement of Bill and Blue was fun enough, but I don't feel like they mattered at the end of the story as much as they should have. If only just to help out, offer a few extra words, and give X another Mega Evolution Stone, or a Keystone. But the real thing was just the question that the kids came to at the end. That question of, was it really worth it? Do these people actually deserve to be saved? Especially when so many of them chose to be a part of Team Flare, knowing what Team Flare was up to. I don't blame the kids for kind of being shaken by that. The callousness of the masses can sometimes leave you kind of feel like, man, is this truly human nature to just not care? I mean, I don't know. A part of me can be like that too, but then there's part of me that does have that caring side that wishes I could do more for other people. It's just easier said than done in a lot of situations. But dang. So I am glad ultimately the kids kind of found their resolve in how they wanted to go about a lot of things. Like they have that understanding of how the world can be, but that didn't leave them jaded in the end. And that's what probably matters the most. They didn't come out of all of that feeling like all is lost. There is no hope. There is no faith to be had in other people. No. They put the effort and love that they wanted in the world, they wanted to see in the world, out back into the world and change the community at least for the better. And I think that is a wonderful point of view and a wonderful angle to go at things. Yes, there will always be people who are callous and don't care and treat people's lives like they don't mean anything. But you can bring out the caring side of the people with that little glimmer still illuminated in their heart and help it grow by putting your positivity out there as well. I think that's good. And much like the kids, don't give up, because sometimes that's what's needed in order to bring people back into the light. A lot of good lessons in this one. I liked it. Man, I just wonder about Malva. What becomes of her, especially from a game standpoint? I guess we'll see. So let me know your thoughts on these chapters in the comment section below and the whole of the X and Y storyline. What was your favorite moment, least favorite moment, all that good stuff. So like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, when we meet in the sunny shores of Alola, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you in the next one. So then take care. Bye-bye.